if you're doing something that's so easy, man, you might want to reconsider what you're doing. Like I can't. You know, Durant's been a friend of mine for a very, very long time. Yeah, I mean, he's been a friend of mine for a long time. So has LeBron and all those guys. Would I make the same decision? No. But that's their decision. That's their choice. Yeah, as a leader, you gotta be able to take the good with the bad, man. You can't just because the ship's sinking, all of a sudden I'm gonna jump off and swim to another ship like that. You don't do that, right? You can win championships in front of everybody, then you could miss the playoffs in front of everybody. You gotta be able to take both sides of it.
Oh my God, what happened to the Nets? Nets loss, how Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving ruined the franchise. I think before going any further, it needs to be reminded that the Brooklyn Nets have never won a championship in NBA history. That includes when they were called the New Jersey Nets as well. I understand now why teams that have never won in almost 80 years should be seen as there's a reason this hasn't happened that runs deep into the fabric that transfers over from owner to owner, employee to employee, player to player. The latest are two players the Nets surely thought would change that in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but today have been met with the harsh reality that that was never the case. That they couldn't have bet on weaker superstars. I use these words and future phrases in this story because as a fan of basketball whose deepest love for the game is competition, I couldn't be more disappointed in the things both these players have done to compromise that competition, taking the easy way out in their careers that this time around seems to not be so easy. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have ruined this franchise who once had a glimmer of hope in 2019 where D'Angelo Russell, All-Star Jared Allen, and guys like Spencer Dinwiddie led them to the playoffs when no one believed that was possible. A young Kenny Atkinson who just won a championship with the Golden State Warriors was there, two All-Stars in Russell and eventually Allen, and with an added superstar, who knows what the Nets could have organically created. Instead, they traded or removed all those pieces for the steroid of two players with a track record of being soft as 6ix9ine music videos after telling. In case you haven't heard, Kevin Durant has requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets with 4 years remaining on his contract. This came days after Kyrie Irving and the team went through an initially shaky re-sign process and also months of subliminal shots back and forth between he and the franchise because of his lack of commitment not only to basketball, but the team. He finally opted into the final year of his deal and will be a free agent next June, where he'll definitely leave the team now that KD has asked to be coddled somewhere else. This means the Nets have to trade Kyrie as well, or risk getting nothing in return for him. Him opting in now seems like a careful plot by these two to get Irving his $36 million this season, and since he'll be a free agent next year, can follow KD wherever the Nets trade him. They went from being betting favorites to winning a championship next season to a team that misses the playoffs altogether without these two in the lineup in just a few bad moves that shored up this franchise will continue down its path of never winning for the foreseeable future. Nets loss, here's why.
Oh my God, what happened
to the Nets? It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. You can also send a super thanks by clicking the button below. Enjoy the video. Quick backstory of how this all happened. As mentioned, in 2019, the Nets weren't a great team, but they were young and very exciting. Russell was playing his most confident basketball and looked like a perfect fit in Brooklyn running the show. They made the playoffs but lost 4-1 first round against the Sixers. That summer, Kevin Durant was set to become a free agent and had grew tired of never really feeling like Golden State actually needed him or that he would ever be seen as a true warrior. He decided to leave the Warriors and hitch his wagon to a player that has been disappointing since the day he left Cleveland, Kyrie Irving. As far as individual talent, he's great. As far as a team guy and accomplishments to match talent, Kyrie has been a disappointment. The two decided on Kyrie's hometown Nets as their destination. They joined forces, and that duo has managed to make it to the second round at best in the last 3 seasons. This team could have grown into a champion this season with Irving opting in, KD under contract, and Simmons no longer hiding behind injury to sue the Sixers. But for these reasons, that won't happen. Again, Nets loss. Stunt number 1, being too thirsty. The Nets' initial problem that led to this situation where your superstar player now wants out was that they were too thirsty to get him and his buddy in the first place. Like mentioned, they were doing fine with D'Angelo Russell and the 2019 roster, just needed a few pieces and the cap room to offer a superstar to pair with the already playoff team they had. Yes, this way takes some time, but seeing as they haven't won anything in 76 years, why not continue to be patient? But just like most teams, when KD was set to become a free agent in 2019, the Nets began salivating. They quickly became the favorite to land him solely because they happened to be Kyrie's hometown team, no other reason. Already a bad sign. In a sign and trade, the Nets acquired Durant along with a protected 2020 first-round draft pick from the Golden State Warriors in exchange for guards D'Angelo Russell and scraps that would end up being flipped for Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors' missing piece to their latest championship. At the time, this seemed like a fleece as the Nets got a top 3 player in the game and a first-round pick. They gladly gave up their star point guard and eventually traded a future all-star in Jared Allen over time, as well as losing Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert to accommodate. A completely different team, all when they didn't need such. FYI, Kawhi was a free agent as well that June, along with Jimmy Butler, Chris Middleton, DeMarcus Cousins, and more that would have been great fits next to D'Angelo Russell, and who knows, maybe could have resulted in more than a conference semifinals. Which is all that has been produced since signing Durant and Irving. They were too thirsty to make a splash, and instead, all they made was a bed of setbacks for the franchise. Now that they will end up with none of these players on the roster, and most likely a bottom-feeding team for who knows how long. At least they got Ben, right? Stunt number 2, promises they couldn't keep. This one is total speculation, but another reason the Nets lost hitching their wagon to KD and Kyrie, in my opinion, is because they made promises they didn't keep with Kyrie and KD. Knowing what we know about these two and what we've heard from them about their involvement with managing the franchise alongside the GM and owner, you know they must have been told that was possible before they all signed. I think it was important to both players, especially Kyrie, that they can have an important role in how the team was going to be built in their time there, and that they would work together instead of the typical player-franchise relationship. This seems to have been a Kyrie, there's an I in Irving stipulation, so he could take week breaks without informing his team and decide not to get vaccinated while everyone else, including KD, did, causing their season to be full wash as Harden left and they were the only team swept in the playoffs, losing in the first round at that, mainly because Irving only played 29 games because of the vaccine mandate in Brooklyn. Sean Marks, for some genius reason, began taking subliminal shots at Kyrie about wanting available and committed players, to which Irving responded also subliminally, and the bad blood was clear. After the season ended in disappointment in 2022, Irving called the owner and GM by first name, saying they'll meet and discuss team building going forward. Yet, word is, Irving hasn't talked to the Nets all summer. Probably because he wasn't invited to the meetings. You know, the ones players aren't obligated to be invited to. But I think in this case they were told they would be. Now their suggestions aren't being heard and ruffle Kyrie's feathers, making his best friend angry enough to request a trade. Stunt number 3, Kyrie is a cancer.
Shared it with some of my teammates as well as the organization. You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
If Kyrie Irving would be drafted to a team, become an all-star on said team, have the best player in the world at the time join his team. They won a chip together, and Irving hits one of the biggest shots in finals history to win their first of what looked like many they would contend for. If he could still decide to leave that situation, go to Boston where he could finally be the guy on the team makes it to the conference finals with him on the roster. Although he didn't play a game in those finals dealing with injury, he leaves that team because he just felt like it, then goes to the Nets, takes a mental break in the middle of their season in 2021, only to resurface in full coddle me mope mode, clearly detrimental to the team. He gets injured like usual, causing the team to lose to eventual champs Milwaukee, then decided not to get vaccinated even though his entire team did, causing him to have to miss half the games due to the mandate for New York because of the pandemic. The team went 44-38, good for 7th in the West, and lost Harden directly because his disbelief in Irving, and also lost in the first round being swept by the Celtics. If he could do all this, what would surprise us about this turning out to be another team he's ruined in his wake? Kyrie is a team obliterator, just like Terrell Owens was. He's a cancer. Whenever he can't get his way, it's certain he'll pout about it and is petty enough to give up money and career achievements just to get you back. Eventually, the Nets will have to trade him, making his third team, and none will like or praise him when he returns. Great talent, cancerous personality. Any team loses if he's anywhere around. It's that simple. All in all, the Nets made a mistake signing these two, and I can't believe swept in the second round is all they have to show for it. KD requesting a trade further lets me know how thin-skinned and fickle a player he is, and how disappointing his career has been since he left OKC. Even with 2 chips, he's still a letdown. Like Kobe said, you don't get the same credit for it when you make super teams just to win. Here's to him going on to making another super team and still losing. And to the Nets who simply lost. Oh my God, what happened to the Nets? It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out. Oh my God, what happened to the Nets?